Mozambique's devastating 15-year civil war between 1977 and 1992 obliterated the wildlife in Gorongosa National Park. Throughout the conflict, combatants often took refuge in the park and killed animals for food or money. The sale of elephant tusks, for example, became a source of funding for military operations. But today, thanks to the work carried out over the last 2 decades by the BBVA Foundation's World Biodiversity Conservation Award-winning Restoration Project, the Mozambican park has recovered much of its ecological integrity.
Talking about catastrophe in Gorongosa National Park, when Gorongosa Restoration started in the park, the major catastrophe was that more than 90% of fauna population was completely destroyed.
In fact, when the project began, there were fewer than 10,000 large animals in the park, whereas today this figure has increased tenfold to over 100,000. This success has been based primarily on the effective protection of the fauna through surveillance by an extensive network of rangers, as well as a program of reintroduction of some species that had become almost extinct.
In terms of conservation of biodiversity, you will see that we have been able to reintroduce some species which were no longer existing in Gorongosa. In general, I can say that animal population, some species have been reintroduced, and that is a very, very important area to underline as a result in terms of conservation of biodiversity.
In parallel, the project has promoted scientific research on Gorongosa species and ecosystems from the Edward O. Wilson Laboratory, named after the famous Harvard professor of entomology, who, after visiting the restored park, described it as the most biodiverse place on the planet. This research program has revealed the existence of up to 200 new species, most of them insects, but also including bats, reptiles, and plants. At the same time, the success of the project has been based on actively involving the local community in the area, both through the involvement of young Mozambicans in the ranger network and through an extensive socio-economic development program to ensure that people have access to basic needs such as health, housing, and education.
In Gorongosa National Park, we are applying a conservation model of balancing the needs of wildlife and people, this way to protect and develop this beautiful landscape. Our aim is to leverage both people and the ecosystem so that both benefit. Our idea of being able to join and have this integrated model is to make sure that everyone thrives, to have a happy ecosystem and a protected one. Because we cannot talk about conservation if people are hungry, if people don't have an income-generating activity to make sure that they feed themselves, that they then are able to educate their children and have a bigger development model.
Gorongosa has thus become an exemplary project, which, by integrating nature conservation with the development of the local population, can serve as an inspiration for other African countries.
We are happy to bring hope both to the animal and to the people and ensure that this can be seen all over the world and that it can be replicated to make sure that we have a brighter future for everyone.